Here I come, King Diddy. You're always up to no good again at this point in time, ever since 1992, which you still never stops to become a villain again. Hey, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? I'm Sonic the Hedgehog here, and I'm back for some more of the Maxi Toys videos. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to more Let's Play of Kirby Dream Land 3 for the Super Nintendo / Super Famicom in the forms of Japan. So last time we actually did tackle from the forms of, apologize of the graphical issues on my capture cards at the moment. That's only because, well. So, anyway, so we've previously managed to able to get ourselves the rest of those remaining, heart stars, as you can see right there, with all 6 of those levels, and altogether we got ourselves all 30 of those heart stars now. And today for this episode is the fact that we're going to be stop King Diddy in the forms of the main boss in level 5, or in this case world 5 in Iceberg. It's kind of weird to see how King Diddy actually got himself his own tower in the actual snowland, which even then, that's kind of odd. So anyways, if you ever fight against this guy before, well, at least specifically King Diddy before, ever since during the likes of 1992 at this point, ever since Kirby's Dream Land, and especially noticeable, most commonly known, in the forms of Kirby's Dream Land 2, you know exactly how this boss fight works, is that we need to once again just able to reflect the star's projectiles right back at him, and that's all you're really trying to do. But this time around though, this boss does have 2 phases, which even then, the first phase is pretty much like how he does it in the standard King Diddy fights these days, but in forms of he actually messes around and uses his hammer to actually just to perform a projectile to all that stuff, and it's up to me to able to, or it's up to Kirby rather, to able to actually just to reflect the projectile back at him. And as you can see right there, this is the second phase, which as you can tell, King Diddy once again got possessed by the forms of dark matter ever since Kirby's Dream Land 2, because you know how the fact that in the forms of my girlfriend Tiana does have a really hard time in the forms of Kirby's Dream Land 2 King Diddy fights, because the way that how the fact that in King Diddy and Kirby's Dream Land 2 normally becomes very significantly difficult because of his behavior and all that. Or maybe it's probably because he was in hyper mode by possessed by the forms of dark matter while he was sleeping. So, but in this phase, all you have to do is basically, as you can tell, whenever he starts shooting those black projectile orb stuff, it's up to you to able to actually reflect the projectiles back at King Diddy when he was possessed. So even I know, oh my god, is he Pac-Man? Probably he might have played too much on Pac-Man these days back in the arcade machines or something. Well, granted though, that Pac-Man was almost at this point in time, he was almost 40 years old at this point until when it gets to 2020, but at the moment until up to this point in time, he might be actually become, I was classified for saying almost 38 in this particular year, as far as I might as well concerned about this. So, anyway, so today was actually forms of, I was classified for saying as of Monday, in the forms of, what day is it? I forgot. Oh yeah, the 16th of April. Basically, it's not long until when we actually get ourselves our release of the forms of Nintendo Labo, but in forms of Nintendo Switch. But even then, I will admit though, I wasn't really particularly a huge interest of the forms of creativity stuff every now and then, because I was more accustomed to the forms of hardcore gamer or anything else for that relatable. But even then, that was last time, but in forms of how the fact that we actually did manage to did crafted stuff last time, but in forms of Mario Kart Connect series, which sadly though the series is no longer going to be continuing at this point, because you know how the fact that I get really bored by the forms of running out of ideas, by the forms of track layouts and all that stuff, so we're pretty much done for now. But even then, I still enjoy Mario Kart, don't get me wrong, but it's just how the fact that I prefer playing Mario Kart games a bit more than just buying those all plenty of accessories of the forms of Kinect's Mario Kart franchise, as far as I'm aware. So, oh, you gotta be kidding me. Sometimes I have to admit though right away is that the second phase might take a little bit overstated welcome, because there are a few plenty of times he always does a Pac-Man attack, which even though it does that loads of times, even especially in this particular phase, because even then I was really hoping I can able to actually deal with him. Well, I should classify for saying another huge reason that this might actually be the difficult phase of this fight, because of how the fact that if you're trying to able to, God forbid, trying to able to reflect the projectile back at possessed King Diddy, but all of a sudden you just always ended up getting attached to each other, which even now that might be the only difficult part about this phase of the fight. But apart from that though, he's way easier compared to how he does it in Kirby's Dream Land 2 in my opinion, just because of how the fact that, well, first off, he doesn't become really overpowered, especially noticeable in hyper mode or something like that. And second of all, is the fact that the area itself is actually way more larger compared to how it does in Kirby's Dream Land 2 counterpart. And thirdly, it's the fact that you can actually able to stand onto these pedestals by the forms of the actual tower itself, which is kind of unique. But it wasn't until we actually get into that particular stuff again, until when it gets to Kirby 64 in the future. But for now, let's shoot King DDD for one last shot, assuming if he lowers down. And Kazam! Alright, sweet. So, once you're able to defeat King DDD, after when you're able to get yourselves all 30 of those heart stars, basically you get yourselves the true final boss in the game, because if you don't have all these heart stars with you, this might be the final boss for you, because just like how it does it in the classic Sonic games, most notably Sonic Advance Trilogy and stuff like that, if you don't collect all the 7 Chaos Emeralds, then you would able to get yourselves the true final boss in the game, which has the exact same system as how it does it in Kirby's Dream Land 2 and this, and especially noticeable in Kirby 64, which again, we'll get to that until in about a month later. So, anyways, the warp stars now appeared, and this will actually transport us into the true final level in the game, slash the true final boss in the game, which appears to be in world number 6. And this will be only accessibility when you're able to actually get yourselves all of these heart stars in each world. And welcome to Hyper Zone. Look at all these lovely precious heart stars, and once they're all combined into one, they actually create the most pretty cool power-up in this particular final boss itself. But first off, we got ourselves the first phase of this fight. Isn't that dark matter? Okay, so we got ourselves the returning final boss ever since Kirby's Dream Land 2, but unfortunately though, I died straight away because that was actually a great start. Especially noticeable that I've got a little bit of health left due to how the fact that I keep on getting hit by King DDD several times. But let's do a second attempt, shall we? So anyways though, this first phase of this final boss is basically dark matter again, ever since Kirby's Dream Land 2, except the fact the matter is, it's actually way easier this time around. Because for one thing, that first off, it's in the big TV screen this time, as opposed to how it does in the Game Boy screen, as opposed to how it's usually becomes smaller screen. Well, and except the fact that he's moving a lot slower, I think, which even then though. Let's talk about the actual power-up itself, but in forms of the heart staff, which is basically kind of like how it does it in the forms of Rainbow Sword in Kirby's Dream Land 2, and especially Star Rod in the forms of Kirby's Adventure, except it's hearts instead of the stars, and even especially the Rainbow Sword, which even then that makes it a little bit much of a preference there, and there we go. That concludes Dark Matter. So even then he's once again being possessed, or even in this case, being defeated. Whoa, what's going on with these flashy images? What the hell? What's going on here? Folks, ladies and gentlemen, introducing to ourselves a new type of the forms of the final boss these days in the Kirby games. Here we have Zero. Not to be confused as Zero from Mega Man X series, which even though, except it's not a robot, because he apparently becomes an eyeball, and he's spitting blood. That's incredibly dark for a Kirby final boss like this. But even then, that's really gross. But anyway, basically what to do in this fight is basically we need to attack any area if you forms of the Zero boss fight, which even then it sounds pretty easy at first, but you're gonna need to be very careful though because of his random attacks as you expected, but in forms of blood stains, because apparently blood can actually hurt you, which even then still is incredibly awfully graphic outside this time. And shoot. Ah, great. Alright, jump cut right there, because apparently, much like how it does in Kirby's Dream Land 2, if you die in this particular final boss of the game, you still need to able to go back to the beginning portion of the forms of the final boss fight, which is kind of annoying, but even then, nothing too cryptic throughout, because even then, it just makes the Dark Matter segments really easy this time, because unlike how it does in the forms of, well, you can do a trick, but in forms of during the likes of Kirby's Dream Land 2, but in the forms of how the fact that he moves way too fast in Kirby's Dream Land 2, but thankfully though, he's way too slow in this game this time. So anyway, avoid any of these bloodstains! Although, except they are clearly invisible, because again, due to the emulation of the forms of capture card these days. But anyways though, so, oh crap. So yeah, it's pretty cool by the looks of all this design right there. Even though, are we actually on the exact same approach as how he does it where Hercules managed to able to get an eyeball like that whenever when, you know excuse me, whenever you get to the scene where at the very beginning of the film, that Hades wants to able to actually reveal the future portions of his plans to destroy Hercules, and then he's somehow able to actually gather himself, well, just one eyeball to possess the wish of the forms of the actual, well, I don't know what these other three trios are called, I really don't know for that, because it's been a while since I actually watched the film Hercules these days, but anyway, so let's go ahead. Yikes! Jesus Christ! It comes out of the eyeball itself. So anyways, here's the third and final phase of this fight. It's how the fact that if you think this final boss was over, but it turns out it wasn't, because you have yourselves the third and final phase, is that you keep on attacking this red eyeball over there, which is very, very gross by the looks of it all there. And basically, he doesn't attack you or anything, he's just trying to attack you while chasing you. And then after a several amount of hits, in fact, I actually did manage to survive this particular phase of the fight with 1 unit of health left, which is quite lucky. And once you're able to defeat Zero, then that concludes Kirby Dream Land 3. So let's enjoy the best ending of Kirby Dream Land 3. So yeah, Dark Matter has been vanquished once again, and once again, Dreamland has been safely, peaceful returned. So anyways, let's talk about the overall. Oh, actually, I might not get into the overall of the game just yet because of how the fact that I'll be able to save that in the extra video. Because of that, though, as you can see, this is the best ending of that particular game. It shows you the staff credits of the really lovely art style of this game, actually, because even then though, that's probably the most interesting part about this game, because even then though, despite the fact that it plays exactly like how it does in the forms of Kirby's Dream Land 1 and 2, like the exact same concept altogether, but except the fact that we actually have ourselves new animal friends to join with, but in forms of, you know, Neko, the cat, and especially notable with Pitch the bird and Choo Choo, I would classify for saying the octopus or something like that, although I'm not 100% sure on that one. So anyway, yeah, that was a pretty interesting run through of that particular Kirby's Dream Land 3. But even then though, again, it's not entirely over just yet, because as you expected from any other Kirby Let's Plays, I'm going to be showing off these extra stuff, but in forms of, well, after when you beat the main game, specifically the 100% portion of, not the actual game itself just yet, because, I'll get into more details about this particular 100% completion to deal with, but in forms of how how'd you get it exactly, because remember what I mentioned to you before, after when you get every single collectibles in the forms of hard stars in a single player mode, you get yourself 97% instead, in the forms of 100% as from any other Kirby games at this point. But even then though, you can definitely tell why when we get into the next video until tomorrow. And actually, it might be Tuesday tomorrow, so it might be a perfect time for me to able to finish the game off and do it tomorrow. But anyway though, so yeah, with that being said folks, yeah, until Dark Matter will make a return, but in forms of Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards. In fact, that might actually be the final time we're going to be seeing Dark Matter, because in the future Kirby games, we're probably not going to see Dark Matter for a long, long time. In fact, it's been about 18 years ago since we actually, last time we saw, you know, the Dark Matter since Kirby 64, because of how the fact that, well, you can definitely tell why when we get into that until next month, as I mentioned this dozens or so times. But anyways though, so yeah, I'm gonna have to basically pretty much end things off for this point. Well, not until after this particular staff credit sequence is finished, but even then though, it's a pretty enjoyable, fun thrill ride. Well, there are plenty of times I died several times due to enemy contact and everything else without resistible, but at least apart from that though, it's not too bad, not too noticeable in my opinion. But anyway, that was it for the forms of Kirby Dream Land 3. So even then though, when it comes to the main game, that, as I mentioned to you before, there's still more to come, but in forms of this game, because after when you beat the main game, you actually unlock not one, but 2 unlockable modes, which even then I'll explain more details onto that as soon as we get to the next video. But for now, we got ourselves this little final shot of the forms of the pop star is now finally restored, because you know how the fact that because of the opening cutscene, it did shatter those little rings, shatter to pieces, which even now that actually represents the actual purpose of this. So yeah, join me next time on Let's Play Kirby Stream Land 3. It's the fact that we're going to be showcasing off extra things in the forms of Kirby Stream Land 3 itself, and also the requirements of 100% completion of this. So yeah, see you guys next time for that. Later, fellas.